we will be doing a re-enlistment ceremony for our lovely Technical Sergeant Simons. We'll be putting on the rank sergeant very soon. After he gets here, we will start the ceremony. After that, we will have a guest speaker, Lieutenant Colonel Robertson, who has graciously accepted our presentation. Then we'll have a question and answer, and from there, we'll be dismissed and good to go. So, while we have the guest speaker talking, think of some questions to ask. You will have time to ask questions. And that should be our rundown of TSgt Lab. Get ready for standby, and then once they enter the room, we will be good to go.
Carry on!
Alright, so we'll get started then. Welcome to TSgt Lab 2. Some general announcements that we do have. Make sure you're just checking your announcements, right? I see a couple of GMC here. Make sure you're signing up for mentors. Make sure you check who you're getting mentoring. Also, do not forget that we do have TSgt Lab next week as well, because it's going to be the first Thursday of the month. With that being said, that's all the announcements I have. Anybody else has an announcement? Let me know. We'll start TSgt Lab 2. So we'll be starting TSgt Lab 2 with the re-enlistment ceremony for Technical Sergeant Simons. If you want to get that started.
All right, is everybody excited to see Sergeant Simon stay? Well, it's a pleasure for me to be able to be here. I know this particular airman's journey has been full of trials and tribulations, starting in Colorado Springs and then enduring Jacksonville, Arkansas, where she arrived with us here at wonderful State College. So this is a seminal moment for her as an airman because this will be the final time that she does this. So unlike us, we get to do it one time and then we have to beg to leave or retire, which I hear is harder than getting in. Our airmen serve periods of enlistment where they have to be accepted to come back in, retake their enlisted oath before moving on. In her case, for the third time, the last time, that career advancement time. And we had to do it today because as of 1 February, she'll be a senior non-commissioned officer. So, if you are ready to do this one last time, Sergeant Simons?
Yes, sir.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Samantha Nicole Simons,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support and defend
to support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I bear true faith
that I bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and that I will obey
and that I will obey
the orders
the orders. I was excited.
the orders of the officers appointed over me
The orders of the officers appointed over me,
according to regulations
according to regulations
and the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
and the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you. Take your seats, and thank you all for coming to the first episode of the Sergeant Simon Show. As Colonel Havard alluded, next week at the end of normal lab will be my promotion ceremony, which I'm also very honored and very excited to share with all of you. And also, as the Colonel suggested, we normally only sign up for 4 to 6 years at a time. But then, since it was my birthday on Tuesday and I officially turned 12, I have signed up indefinitely. So my current contract is good till 2034. I've had a great time working with you guys over the last 3.5 years. I'm excited to see how this semester plays out and have a great POC lab.
outstanding. Congratulations. I would like to invite up our guest speaker for the day, Lieutenant Colonel Robertson. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. Am I clear to unmask while I'm up here talking, or?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good.
You okay?
Perfect, thank you. I got the green light from Sergeant Simon, so we're good. Hey, first of all, congratulations to Tech Sergeant Simon, soon to be Master Sergeant Simon. This is one of many awesome endeavors that you have taken and will continue taking in your career. And you know, next week when you do your promotion, don't let her get out of her promotion cheap. Right when you promote, you're supposed to buy snacks and goodies and stuff for everyone else. So I'm sure we'll take care of you all. But this is an awesome opportunity to meet. Thanks to Colonel Havard for allowing me the opportunity to come up here and share some time with y'all. I'm probably the last thing between y'all and the gym, dinner, homework, something, I don't know. It is Thursday, so the bar, I'm sure. I did go to college a couple times, so I know what it's like. It's actually fun being back on a college campus. But it's even more exciting to have the opportunity to come up here and spend some time with Air Force and soon to be Airmen and Space Force. Because I've been living with the Army for the last 6 months, and I'm glad to be back hanging out with the Air Force and Space Force folks for the next hour or so. As we go through the next hour, the only thing I have to do is be home in time to wake up tomorrow to go back to class. I'm sure my colleague Spaz would like to get home to her kid. I too have kids, but again, the only thing I have to get home to is be up in time for class tomorrow. If you got questions that we don't get to throughout the time, I'm happy to stick around and chat on the side for y'all. If you have class you got to get to after this, feel free to just sneak out the back or whatever you got to do. We will keep this unclassified. There's no reason to talk secrets. I don't even know if any of you have secret clearance, to be quite honest. Some of you all might, but again, thanks for letting me take the time today. I'm going to use my glasses every now and then to reference my notes because I'm old. But when I started talking to Colonel Havard and the POCs, Christian and Dan, and we went back and forth with some other folks thrown in the mix, and finally figured out it was Christian and Dan who were going to be the POCs. They asked me to talk about a couple things. I'm happy to talk about those things. I'm happy to talk about anything, to be quite honest. So they asked me to share a little bit about my experience, talk about CGO to FGO transition, which is a long ways out for most of you, to make that leap from captain to major. Also talk about what it's like to lead a civilian workforce, and then also talk about what an ABM is. So that's what we'll kind of discuss. If you have questions, please ask them throughout. I have no problem with that. If you want to hold it to the end, that's fine. We'll try to carve out some time at the end for an open session Q&A. But just, this will be much more enjoyable for everybody if it's interactive. So please, ask the questions throughout. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out my colleague who's with me today, Colonel Select Julie Esposito Celsius. I had to ask her how to pronounce that because I butcher it every time. But she is a 720 alum, class of 2000. So she's super excited to get back up here. I saw her looking around the building and talking to folks, and just I can see that tear in her eye. She's back here with family, so that's an awesome opportunity for her as well. So she is, I'm an air battle manager. I'll go more into that later, but she also is an air battle manager. We've crossed paths numerous times throughout our career, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but she's been a squadron commander. She's worked at for CENTCOM/AFCENT. She's also worked at the AOC/SHOC, and I'll let her talk about that a little bit later on in her career, but both ABMs, but different perspectives and different assignments to give us a little bit different insight into the Air Force. So before I get going, I got to throw this out there to standard. Does everyone know what non-attribution is? Are you familiar with that in an academic environment? What says in this room stays in this room. It's like going to Las Vegas, right? No, you're too young for that. But anything I say, anything Spaz says, is our opinions only. It's not the official answer for the Air Force. It's not the official answer for the Army War College. So I just got to throw that out there, okay? All right. So me, I'm from the upstate New York. Anyone else from upstate New York? Woo! Where you at? Where from?
Near Utica.
Specifically.
Verona.
Okay, I'm from Syracuse, Liverpool.
Yeah.
So you spent a lot of time at the horse track?
Oh yeah, too much.
In the 30s still?
5 minutes from my house.
All right.
Only when I was 18 though.
There you go. Good answer.
Right. We'll
So
constitute
I'm
that as
from upstate New York
civil law.
originally, but I haven't lived there since 1995. So I enlisted in the Air Force on December 12, 1995. So I've been doing this for a minute. I did go to college. I started out, I applied to one college and I got in, so I went, but it didn't work out well for me. I made some poor life choices, so I went down and hung out with a recruiter for a little bit and enlisted in the Air Force as a 2A5X1 heavy aircraft maintenance technician. Get some props in the back. So I spent 6 years at Barksdale Air Force Base turning wrenches on B-52s. It is an awesome piece of machinery and it will drop an immense amount of firepower and bombs on bad people. And it is absolutely awesome, one of the best times of my career during that period. I'm married, I got 4 kids. Been married 25 years. My oldest son is should be a senior, but he's not quite there. At the University of Buffalo in upstate New York. And I got 3 other ones, a 20-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a just turned 14-year-old. Standard American, got your dog, got your cat. I used to have chickens when I lived in Italy. We had 5 chickens. And we had 2 rabbits as well, so we had our own little farm going there. Like I said, I didn't drop out of college technically. I just altered my life choice. But I did go to college, went to SUNY Cortland for 3 years. Changed my major like 16 times. I'm assuming some of you in this room have changed your major multiple times, but it's okay. You finally realize what you want to do in life. Stationed at Barksdale Air Force Base. During that time, I deployed in support of Desert Fox. I don't know the ROTC syllabus. I'm an OTS guy, but I'm assuming you learned some of the military stuff and history and everything here, right? But Operation Desert Fox, Allied Force deployed to England in support of that. Numerous deployments to Guam, Diego Garcia, as well as other operations that I supported for ongoing missions in Iraq during my enlisted time. I finally went back to school. I graduated from Louisiana Tech at Ruston. Anyone from Louisiana? No? Okay. That's too far south. Louisiana Tech, Ruston, and then ultimately went to OTS June, and I graduated from OTS in June 2002. At which point I was selected to go to Tyndall undergraduate air battle manager training. Is anyone, before I start talking more about ABM and what I've done, and then we'll talk more about what ABM is specifically, is anyone familiar, have heard of an ABM before? A couple folks, other than being able to spell it? I can barely do that. And then when we get to that section, I'll just ask for what your ideas and thoughts specifically are of when I say ABM, what you think that person does on a day-to-day basis. I'm curious from that perspective. And then I'll share my perspective, and then I'll have Spaz give her perspective as well. Spent 2 years at Tyndall from 02 to 04. Back then there was a huge influx of students, so we sat around in casual status for a long period of time. We had the opportunity to work with OSS. And then finally started training. 9 months later, graduated from there in February 2004, at which point I went to Robbins Air Force Base in Middle Georgia. Anyone from Georgia? Yeah. Where at?
Right on the border, just north.
Okay. So northern Florida by southern Georgia. Perfect. So I flew J-STARS, Joint Surveillance Target Attack Radar System, EHC, aircraft for about 5.5 years. Spaz flew that airframe as well. During that time, I was fortunate enough to spend some time at LLAB Air Base, which is in Qatar, supporting Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, Combined Defense of the Arabian Gulf, otherwise known as CDAG. 4 flying assignments. I worked an assignment at the CAOC, the Combined Air Operations Center, as the J-STARS LNO. I also had the opportunity to work as the Intelligence Surveillance Reconnaissance Division ISRD LNO for a period of time as well. Awesome experiences. I mean, you're on an ops floor twice the size of this, just watching sensor feeds from predators and other UAVs, and then employing ordnance and killing bad guys. So awesome opportunity to be over there. After that, I had the opportunity to go to the United States Air Force Weapons School at Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada, where again I crossed paths with Spaz. So when I was a lieutenant, I think maybe a captain at Robbins, she was already out at Nellis, came back. I was her instructor, which was good, and then I went to Nellis and she was my instructor, which turned the tables a little bit. But now I'm back with her again in my life at Carlisle, where she is now my paper advisor. So I keep coming full circle with her as some sort of instructor fashion, and she has a really strong red pen. I will say that, but it's in a good way. So when I was out at Nellis, I was a flight commander. I was assistant director of operations. during my time out there. Red flag exercises out there as well. I did not deploy for that 3-year period, which was nice, but we were working probably 16, 20-hour days out there. And that is not the standard to say that, right? You know, every career field in the Air Force is different. That just happened to be the one that I was in and still am, where there's some increased demands for myself. After that, I had the opportunity to go to Germany, where I went to the 606 Air Control Squadron in Spangdahlem. Absolutely one of 2 best assignments in my now 26 years in the Air Force. So, is anyone familiar with the CRC? So it's tactical command and control from the ground. So it's a ground-based radar system. The squadron about 350 plus or minus people. We had our own organic radar, we had our own organic radios. Maintenance, we had our own armory. It was awesome. We had our own M9s and M16s and grenade launchers and Humvees and trucks, and it was absolutely amazing. So while I was there, I had the opportunity to deploy to LUD as part of Pyramid, who was the 71st Air Control Squadron, I believe, at the time, and we were responsible for controlling all aircraft in and out, moving, flying over the skies, performing combat missions, combat support role missions in Iraq for 6 months. Absolutely amazing opportunity to sit on the ops floor and for a 3-hour period of time. Each shift was 3 hours. Just move airplanes around, be part of missions where you've got F-15s and B-52s and B-1s and a variety of aircraft out there employing ordnance. You've got the combat support role aircraft, you've got tankers, you've got C-17s, C-130s, all moving things, people, parts, bullets, beams, and resources throughout the AOR. And part of my job was to make sure that the team that I was leading did that to near perfection each and every day without causing any sort of incursions in the sky. So I deployed there for 6 months. Back in garrison, I was the ADO, Assistant Director of Operations, for about a year or so. And then 4 months prior to PCS, I moved downstairs and I was the Director of Mission Support, responsible for about 65 or so vehicle maintainers, HVAC maintainers, power production, supply, individual duty medical technicians, IDMTs, the logistics backbone of the squadron. It was an absolutely awesome opportunity for me as a young major to be able to lead 65 individuals each and every day to get after the mission. One of the best jobs I've had in the Air Force. I was supposed to be there for 3 years. I left at 2. My wife never lets me forget it because I was supposed to go to IDE with the Army out in CGSC, Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. At the time, the Army was doing a twice-a-year program. I was slated to go into the December class. I was on leave in France at the time, and I got a phone call saying, hey, the Army's no longer doing this. You're not going in December. You're going to go in like 3 weeks. So that got accelerated, and I got ripped out of Germany after a little over 2 years. And like I said, my wife never lets me forget that. She wanted that additional year. If you get an opportunity to go to Europe, and some of you in this auditorium will have that opportunity, I see somebody be praying back there. Take that opportunity to travel, see the world. I'm in a regional studies program elective right now that just started this week, and I'm in the Europe elective, but there is so much in Europe that we as Americans don't know about, don't have a difficult time appreciating. So if you do get that opportunity, get over there and see it. There were houses, just as one example, and Spaz has been in Germany as well. There were houses in my village in Italy that were older than America, like built in like the 1400s. And there's a big rock over the center of the door that says the year those houses were built. Just something little like that. You're walking through the village and you see that, like, holy cow, like this is amazing. So if you get that opportunity, go over there and spend some time. Left there, I went to Maxwell for Air Command and Staff College. Was there for a year from 2014 to 2015. If you have the opportunity to go there, learn as much as you can. Take that opportunity, refresh, recharge. They will tell you it's the best 10 months of your life. And it truly is a great opportunity. So if you get that opportunity to go, I encourage you to make the best of that. I went to everyone's favorite place. I don't know why people in the Air Force don't like going to the Pentagon. So I worked at the Pentagon for 2 years. It's actually not that bad. So if you get the opportunity to go to the Pentagon later on in your careers, take that opportunity and do it. I mean, you're there, she's saying no, but she's never been saying you're there with 27,000 of your best friends. You ride the bus each and every day, 45 minutes, or you take the train or the metro to get to work. There's like 16 Starbucks. It's awesome. But while I was there, I had the opportunity to be the 13 Bravo, the ABM career field manager for about a year and a half. which is awesome. And I was also a TAC C2 FAM for JSTARS, CRC, and AWACS. While I was there, I had the opportunity to deploy to Tampa Stan, MacDill Air Force Base, where I spent 6 months, probably one of the most relaxing deployments I've ever had the opportunity. I was also one of the last people to do it for my career field because I found no use and value in that deployment, although it was awesome living on the beach and going fishing all the time. From a career perspective, there's just nothing there. Like, I was doing the work of a senior airman. Not to belittle that, but what I was doing there as a major / lieutenant colonel, they didn't need me there, and they didn't need that position. So, but I did have the opportunity to deploy there for 6 months. Went back to the Pentagon, and then had the second best job, probably the second best assignment, first best job that I've had in the Air Force, and I was offered the opportunity to be the Director of Operations for the 606 Air Control Squadron. Remember I said I was there before, right, in Spangalum? Well, during that period where I left and came back, the Air Force said, hey, we're going to close you down in Spangalum, and we're going to move you to Italy. So I went back and I spent 4 years in Aviano Air Base, Italy. It's northern Italy. It's about an hour northeast of Venice, right along the Mediterranean. Awesome, awesome opportunity to live right at the base of the Dolomite Mountains. So if you're just skiing and hiking and all that, absolutely amazing. So I was the Director of Operations for 2 years there. During that time, I deployed to El Dafra as the DO for the 727th Air Expeditionary Patrol Squadron. Where again now, not only we're controlling air over Iraq, we're also controlling air in and out of the Arabian Gulf, and we're also controlling air in and out in combat operations in Afghanistan. So over a million plus square miles of tactical combat airspace that I'm responsible for on a day-to-day basis to make sure myself and the crews execute that mission to drop bombs, kill bad guys. And this is during the height of ISIS and their demise. So a lot of you probably were not even in school at the time. Back when you were in school, hopefully, but not this school. But watching that on the news, but there's a significant difference about watching what's going on in combat zone on the news or reading about it on whatever social media platform or wherever you get your information, to actually sitting on the floor and having your operators and your team around you bring air power in and out of the AOR, and you're hearing guys on the radio employing ordnance, or you're hearing bad situations. So there was a situation I was on the ops floor when 2 Army HA-60s crashed, and unfortunately everyone perished during that event. But those are the things that you experience during combat. And those are the things you experience as part of being an air battle manager, right? And it was our job when that particular situation happened to ensure rescue forces were notified, to ensure rescue forces were forward deployed to the crash sites, and to bring those sailors, soldiers, and airmen back home. Okay, I don't say that to be a Debbie Downer or anything, but that's just one small example. But absolutely amazing job. And I got back from there, and I did the DO thing for about another year, and then I was offered the opportunity to step up to the next rank, or the seat, if you will, and take command for the last 2 years. So prior to coming to Army War College in Carlisle, I was the commander of the 606 Air Control Squadron. Sent my team of 180 people out the door 2 more times for 6 months to CENTCOM, and back at home we supported combat operations from Italy in the AOR. We also supported operations going on in Libya, in the Baltics, in the Black Sea, all from home station, leading all those airmen to get after the mission. And I have no doubt in my 26 years that it's absolutely the best job and the best squadron I've ever been part of, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But now I'm in Carlisle, Pennsylvania for the last 6 months. And but the good news is I've got the opportunity to go back to what I love. So I'm going back to Ramstein Air Force Base. I'll be part of USAFE, where I'll be the A38, which is Integrated Air Missile Defense Div Chief, for who knows how long, till they fire me, I guess. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell, if you will. Very varied in a lot of different things, and each and every one of you will have the opportunity, no matter what career you're in. Anand, does anyone know what they're doing yet? So you're wearing a flight suit, so you're probably gonna be a pilot.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know what aircraft?
From the Shepherd Air Force Base, sir.
Okay. So you're going to NJET?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Congrats. Who else had their hands up? We'll go one. I can't ask everyone. We'll never get out of here. What are you going to do?
I'm going to be cyber, 17D, sir.
Yeah. Awesome. Expeditionary, or do you know your strat up yet?
No, not yet, sir.
You want to go expeditionary?
I do?
Yes.
Okay.
Trust me. Hey, base comm is fun too, right? Everyone needs their computer,
Yes, sir.
but actually going out in the field and getting after it, you'll enjoy.
I'll keep that in mind, thank you, sir.
All right. What about up front here? Space Force. Anyone on Space Force? Give me your red. You gotta represent. You're going to be Intel 14N. You mentioned me earlier. What about over here in the back? I saw a couple hands. What are you going to do? On what? Do you know what platform yet? What do you want to fly?
Probably next year.
E-models, right? Okay. Otherwise, you're just flying around in the C model, just doing nothing. One more. Over here. Go. What's that? Okay. Nice. I know the Air Force is short on those, so that's an awesome opportunity. Whatever your job is, make the most of it, right? Take the opportunities that are presented to you and just cherish those opportunities. And while you're going through your career, and I'll talk more towards the end, but make sure you're leading airmen, right? You're leading the airmen that are out there like Tech Sergeant Simons, soon to be Master Sergeant, and those that are below her and those that are above her. All right, but our airmen in the United States Air Force and Space Force need your leadership. Because without that, what are we here for, right? We're going to be a developmental engineer, we're going to be a pilot, we're going to be a CISO, you're going to go expeditionary, 17 Delta, and you're going to be in the Space Force, right? But you're also leaders, right? That's why you're sitting in this room, and our airmen need that. Cool. All right, so that's me. All right, what's an ABM? What's an ABM? All right, so I asked the question up front earlier, who had heard of an ABM? So who's heard of an ABM can tell earlier, as far as war stories. Go ahead.
Sir, so I was watching this one documentary about...
Was it Transformers?
No, sir, no, sir. It was about or was it about the operation that happens in Nevada?
Okay.
And it was talking about how the ABMs had to coordinate all the efforts with all their joint services, and I was like, wow, that sounds like a lot. I don't know if I can do that. Plus, like the radar going over your head, like that has to do some damage to it.
So I've never flown it. I have flown AWACS one time, but my primary flying time was on JSTARS, and the radar's underneath, so I don't have to really worry about it. I have heard a lot of stories about for when later on in life you decide to have kids, boy versus girl, and you fly on these airplanes with big radar. So, okay, fair enough. Who else? Who else there at ABM? I heard some other hands. Go ahead.
Sir, I've heard the phrase as like an offensive coordinator in the Air Force.
Okay, fair enough. Kind of similar to what I wrote on my notes earlier. All right. Who else? Anyone else? Take anyone on a ticket? Who has not heard of an ABM, and what do you think it means? What do you think they do? All right. So I like your definition. I like both your definitions. So what I wrote down is tactical C2 integrator. Those are my words. That's not the official Air Force answer, but because I was trying to think of this. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So you're there. Whether you're on the JSTARS, you're on the AWACS, you're on the CRC ops floor, you're in the AOC, but you're bringing all the parts and pieces together, right? You're taking that operational level strategy and guidance that you've gotten from your boss, which comes down in the form of rules of engagement, special instructions, air defense plan, all the information that's out there for whatever, whether it's a red flag, whether it's something going on in CENTCOM, whether it's something going on. Who knows what's going on with Ukraine? That we could walk out of this room and find out we're at war. The Russians and Ukrainians are at war. But all that upper echelon guidance, and you're taking that, you're meshing it all together, and you're orchestrating, or like you said, the offensive coordinator, to bring all that together. And at the end of the day, it's about achieving the commander's intent, right? It's not your intent. You're just taking all that guidance that you've been given from the CFAC or the JFAC. To make the war happen, right? And ultimately, depending on the situation that's going on, kill bad guys, deter country X, I'm not going to throw any specific country names out there, achieve some sort of effect against an adversary. Okay? So things like fighter intercepts, telling the 8-ship of F-22s, and sprinkle a couple F-35s and some F-16s in there. They're flying their combat air patrol cap over Point Magoo as an example. It's a real place out in California, but they're not really flying out there. To go intercept a flight of country X adversary aircraft, right? So telling the bad guys, or sorry, the good guys where the bad guys are. Things like coordinating strategic bombing, precision strike. A lot of things as air battle managers that I never thought I would do. Going through Kindle in Iraq, my last deployment, was we were coordinating with the Army for ground fires from point A to point B, employing HIMARS against an ISIS target. And we're deconflicting that airspace. We're setting up restricted operating zones. We're making sure no aircraft are flying in there. Again, we're coordinating with our joint partners and our Army in this particular case to achieve some sort of effect on the ground. Closed air support, CAS. Everyone loves the A-10. It's going to be around for a while. Supporting the Army folks, whoever that soldier, airman, sailor, Marine is on the ground to bring air power overhead to bear effects on the enemy so that they can get home. ISR, I mentioned it before, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. JSTARS, depending on who you talk to, it's either command and control platform or an ISR platform. It's both. We perform both functions. UAVs, RC-135s, EC-130s, space-based assets. We're using whatever sort of available, whatever that weapon, whatever that asset is, to collect data on our adversary in order to perform some effect, and then also to inform our intel brothers and sisters, so then they come up with a plan. So your folks in the CAP come up with a plan in order to go to war the next day, continue that particular war. So where are all these glorious TAC-C2 platforms? I've already alluded to a couple. They're no longer in Spangal because we moved. I'm so bitter about that. We're in Italy. We got opportunities to go to Robbins Air Force Base, Elmendorf Air Force Base, Alaska, Kadena Air Base, Japan, Geilenkirchen Air Base in Germany, flying the NATO version of the E-3. You can go to Hill, you can go to Mountain Home. You can go to the KAOC. There's numerous ones. There's a KAOC in Ramstein. There's a KAOC in Davis-Monthan. There's a KAOC in Florida. They're all over the place, you know. But as you go to that particular location, the AOC, you're climbing the pole of strategy, if you will. You're moving from the operational into the strategic level. So those opportunities are more for when, later on in life, major lieutenant colonel. There's also opportunities to go be an ALO as a 13 Bravo Air Liaison Officer, so you're working and living with the Army, learn how to employ CAS on a day-to-day basis, which is a pretty awesome opportunity. There's also some onesie-twosies out there. So there's a unit in Utah, it's 84th Raids. They're responsible for radar optimization for all the radars the Air Force owns. There's 81st Range Control Squadron, now Air Control Squadron in Tyndall Air Force Base. They're responsible for all drone. They're using F-16s now. They've converted them into big drones. They fly them around, use them for target practice. The 505th Command and Control Wing, we're SPAS. I'm going to turn over here in a second to talk a little bit about from her perspective as an ABM. That does training, tactics, and test for the Air Force, not just ABMs, but they have their hand in a variety of things that are out there. So ABM is, I would say, jack of all trades, master of none, per se, kind of analogy, right? We dabble in a lot of things and try to do a lot of things really well. We're not dropping bombs, we're not hitting the pickle button or pulling 9Gs and doing barrel rolls and all that sort of stuff. But it's still an awesome opportunity. So we can get you some more contact information if you don't have it. I'll work with Christian and Dan, or I'll send it to you, sir. For this, the AOC, there's a Guard AOC close by. They have ABMs over there as well. If you find as you get into that opportunity in your life, where you start have to pick your job, or the Air Force picks your job for you when you get ABM. You can reach out to us. We'll hook you up with them as well. You can do a little bit more about it. So I'd like to give Spaz just a quick moment to share some of her perspectives on the ABM career field and a little bit about her experience as well.
Okay. So I'll give you a little bit about who I am. I will not repeat, as you already heard. Robo and I have crossed paths quite a bit, so I'm not going to repeat. We're both CRC, both JSTARS. But I'll tell you a little bit different about my background. So, grew up in Philadelphia. Do we have anyone from Philadelphia? Close around Philadelphia? Good, all right. As you already know, graduate here. Okay, I was pre-med, decided I was having way too much fun at Penn State and decided to do microbiology, biochemistry, and molecular biology. So as you can tell, it applies really heavily to air battle management. I was actually supposed to be, I'm going to take this off because it keeps going up. I was supposed to be a biotech, so I really enjoyed biotech warfare. So I was actually going to do biotech warfare and figure out, so kind of work at the Wuhan labs type thing. That was what my passion was. However, I decided to go into ABM. Long story, we can talk offline if you guys want to know how that happened. Major differences between our careers is as I got to deploy a lot of times, same locations, except I also went to Saudi Arabia, and I went and did boots on the ground in Iraq. So I was a convoy operator in Iraq when it was called Mortaritaville and we were getting bombed. I lost a couple airmen to roadside IEDs. So I did a lot of convoy operations, did a lot of boots on the ground, spent a lot of time in Afghanistan in the ground. So a little bit different than what I thought I would be doing as an air battle manager. I spent a total time on my deploy was over 8 years of my life I've spent in the Middle East. And so lots of time in the desert. Loved every moment of it. I will say, some of the downsides aren't fun, but when you went to work with those families and get through the pain, I still talk to those families to this day. So it's a very rewarding career field that you get to build such connections. Some other differences, as an instructor at the weapons school, as he already talked about, but I got to work more at the operational and strategic level of command and control. So I did a lot of time in the Air Operations Center. Out of all the 5 divisions that are in the Air Operations Center, I worked in all 4. The one I did not work in was the air mobility, because I'm not an air mobility officer. So I did strategy, I did combat ops, combat plans. I also got to work in ISRD, and then I also worked on the staff, that force staff. This is where one of my greatest times were. I got to actually be the Special Technical Operations Chief, so I worked in the secret squirrel world for quite some time. During that time, I got to be the special advisor to the Combined Forces Air Component Commander out at CENTCOM. So while we were doing that war, I was his right hand and did all the war planning for him. So a lot of the operational plans, a lot of the stuff that you guys have seen on TV, I was actually the one who wrote those war plans. So a lot of my plans have been executed. There's a couple that have not. I'm waiting to see if they actually do. So it was a really interesting time. I spent a lot of time at the strategic level, getting to look at the big picture of how air battle management and how command and control works across, and all the way up to presidential level. So it's been a lot of fun. I was at Carlisle last year as a student. So after I did my tour with the CFAC, I went and became the DO out at Nellis Air Force Base, where I was teaching Air Operations Center. When we were there, we decided that the emerging warfare and the character of war has changed, and so we now need to get ahead of that, right? We have to go on par with our peer-to-peer adversaries. So during my time out at Nellis, I did organizational change, and if anyone's ever tried to do organizational change in a very deep-rooted bureaucracy, it's very difficult. So what we did was we went from teaching air operations centers to now doing experimentation in the Joint All-Domain Command and Control. So I was leading that effort for the Air Force on trying to get the Joint Force together on how do we do command and control for the future fight. So 2 years as DO, then I leaded up to Commander, where then we kept continuing down this path. And my last year as Commander, I stood up the DoD Joint All-Domain Command and Control Battle Lab, where we experiment, and we experiment every day with all the services. So a little bit different experiences in the same exact career field. So everything he said on the tactical side is spot on. I don't have anything different to add, but just to give you a little bit of the operational and the strategic level of what you can do as an air battle manager. So that's a little bit of the differences between our career fields. Any questions for me before I hand it over, because it's really his day? Okay, go
I have
ahead.
a question for both of you guys. So obviously being ABM, so I'm not going on the platforms. In your opinion and experiences, do you think the Air Force should purchase the new E-7s from Australia?
Me personally, yes. Because that's quickly a new platform. And it's a capable platform, it's been proven. It's actually, I just read an article this morning. It's out of Red Flag right now, which Air Force, AWACS, and probably some CRC folks are out there as well. And I've never seen it up and close and everything, but I've heard good results out of what it can produce. Now, granted, it's a much smaller crew complement, so there's some larger manpower, manning things that need to come along with that and be examined, but I think so, yes.
Yeah, I agree. I flew on it a couple times. It's a great platform. Has lots of capability, so it'll be interesting to see where it can go.
Sounds good, thank you.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, the differences in your career field, was that something that you directed, or was that something that you kind of lumped into based on assignments that you were given?
So as a lieutenant, I had very little say on where I wanted to go. I told the instructor, Cogger, I was like, hey, I want to go to Robbins. I was fortunate enough to get to Robbins. Everything after that, it's both, right? You get your input, the Air Force says thank you, and then it goes to AFDC. And if you want to know more about the A1 world, talk to your cadre over there. She can help you out with the A1 side and assignments and that as you continue on. But for me, I was fortunate enough, I got to go where I said I wanted to go. But that's not always the case.
It's the experiences you have. So when I was a young air battle manager, I knew for a fact that if I stayed in the normal track, I was just going to be like every other E3, E8 air battle manager. So I specialized myself back then. We're also different timings. Same rank, different timings. I specialized in data links. So I taught myself data links and learned how to do that, which opened up a lot new doors, where I did a lot of presidential support, and then I did a lot of setting up out in UCOM. I set up data links because they were just standing up at the time. So there was only a few of us that were experts at that. Because of that, I got seen by different people. Those people pulled me to the different jobs that you're seeing. So it was making opportunities. So seeing them, he mentioned it earlier too. I saw the opportunity to be different and stand out from my other ABMs. I jumped on that opportunity, and that opportunity opened the doors that I experienced.
And my second question is, with the advent of like drones and other remotely controlled airframes in the upcoming future, especially with the F-35 capability to control assets like that, do you think that's going to fall more on the pilot, even though they have so much to worry about, or is that going to fall more on the ABM side?
I don't necessarily think it's going to fall on the pilot, nor do I think it's going to fall perhaps on the ABM. I think it's part of the whole JetC2 construct that's in development right now, where I'm writing my 20-page paper on this, what I call hybrid leadership, where I've got an individual who understands how to lead in general, right? But they also understand artificial intelligence, they understand cognitive warfare, they understand machine learning, they understand how these new autonomous weapon systems all work, and they're kind of like your offensive coordinator, if you will, that we talked about earlier. Whether that's an ABM, that's what I'm proposing in my paper at least. Whether the Air Force listens to me or not, I don't know. Initially I would say yes, but I would see as JADC2 and these new technologies come on further and further down the road, we could see that change.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So you talked a lot about your work against ISIS. Did you ever work in any battlefields like Syria? And if so, did you ever have to deconflict airspace along with like Russian assets, so surface air missiles or Russian aircraft?
Yes. I gotta think what I can say. So it's public knowledge, right, that Russia was flying in Syria, right? Everyone's probably seen on the news, read about it at some point. There was a period of time during my 17th deployment where they were transiting Russian bombers in to Syria from Russia, so they would fly down through the Caspian Sea, they'd fly through Iraq and ultimately into Syria. So we were working, not me personally, but the 06s and the battle caps directors at the KOC were working with their Russian counterparts. They would let us know the approximate times the Russian aircraft would be flying into the theater. We would set up corridors to deconflict blue air, I should say friendly air and allied air to remain outside of those corridors, whether that was laterally or vertically or via time. So that, yes, is the short answer. It's probably about really all I can get to. But it was awesome, because you would see it happening and you see about it in the news the next day. All right, go ahead.
Sir, so you got your master's degree from Embry-Riddle in 2006.
I did.
How did you balance that with being an ABM?
So there's a period of time in the Air Force where they said, unless you have a master's degree, you're not getting promoted. So it's more one of those things like, I got to do this master's degree and get promoted. But it took me like, I don't even know. So I graduated from Louisiana Tech in 2001. I immediately kept going to grad school because if you don't know this, I'm going to share the secret with you. As long as you're in school, your student loans get deferred. So I kept going to school, so my student loans are getting deferred. So that's why it took me 4 years or so. And at that time I had three kids. They're all young, so a lot of that burden fell on my wife, and she's absolutely amazing for taking that challenge upon her. But she also was there to support me, and it was like one class a week. So it wasn't overly taxing, but it was one of those necessary evils, if you will, that I had to do if I wanted to see my career continue. Now, the good news is the Air Force has come out in the last couple of years and said, it's not necessary, you don't need that to get promoted. We want you to have a master's degree, we'll get your master's degree, we'll send you to ACSC or CGSC or somewhere along those lines. But, as future leaders, you never stop learning. So if there's something you're interested in, you want to get a master's degree, go get a master's degree. And it keeps you student. But they are paid off now. It took me like 25 years to pay off. Go ahead.
So you just talked about your family there. You've been all around the world and have a pretty big family. What suggestions do you have for kind of balancing that family life and still the work life that you have?
Each job that you're in is different as far as the work-life balance. So, like I mentioned earlier, when we were stationed at Nellis, I was working 16 to sometimes 20-hour days, get home 3 hours sleep. Being a commander is not as long days, but you're still busy. Your phone's ringing at 3 a.m. Right? When you're home, be home. Be home with the family. When it's the weekend, and this goes for whatever job, and when you're not employed. When you're home, you're home. Turn off, if you can, turn off the phone. Don't bring your laptop home. Don't check webmail. Leave work at work. Right? Focus on your kids. Focus on your wife, or your spouse. Excuse me. Take those vacations. Right? Take leave. I've never had so much leave on the books right now because I'm in school and I don't have time to take leave. But before coming here, I was taking 2 to 4 weeks of leave a year. And I had friends out there who were just workaholics and they had like 30, 60 days of leave on the books. What is going on? It's like, take leave. Right? Take leave. Because if you don't take leave, you're going to burn yourself out and you need to recharge. You need to recharge with your family because they're part of you. Because guess who's going to be there when you're done with the Air Force? Your family, right? Whether that's your immediate spouse and kids, your parents, aunts, uncles, sisters, brothers, whatever it might be, but take that time. But and when you're deployed, you're deployed into a different work environment, and you're like, I'm all alone, I got this awesome room to myself, or I'm in a tent with 15 other people. But take the time to pick up that phone, to get on the computer or FaceTime. Now, I can remember one of my first deployments, and Spaz is probably the same, I know Colonel Havert's probably the same as well. Like you would get 1 or 2 15-minute phone calls a week. That's it. Like FaceTime, Skype, all that sort of stuff did not exist back then. So I'd get out of my hooch and walk over to the little phone place there by the Green Bean over at LLAB and wait in line with 25 of my other best friends and give me a number like, all right, number 24, you're up. And then try to dial the operator and the call would drop. Or try to dial it then, but you got 2 15-minute phone calls a week. It's not like that anymore with the advent of technology and cell phones and everything else. So take the time and make those calls or videos or whatever it is to send emails back home, right? Because there's stuff going on at home that matters, and there's stuff that you're doing in your deployed location that matters as well. But they need to hear the voice. You need to have that connection. You need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to talk and work through problems. Because I think every deployment I've been on, there's been multiple deaths. There's been not in my personal life, but people around me. But multiple deaths, multiple babies born, refrigerators breaking, lawnmowers breaking, all that stuff. Because guess what? Life continues while you are gone, and your spouse will do their best to manage it. But at times it will become they will get overwhelmed, and that's where you all come in to be able to get on the phone. Don't say anything other than hello, right? How you doing? But then they start going into that. This is what's going on with my day, and you can start to sense the change in the tone of the voice, and what they're starting to tell you. It's snowballing real quick, right? That's not the time to start talking. That's just the time to sit there and listen and let them communicate what's going on. When they're done, then you start communicating. Don't be like me and say, "Oh, that really sucks." I got to do a job. Just be there to listen, right? But most importantly, when you're at work, you're at work. When you're home, you're home. Sometimes the two streams will cross, right? As you continue to grow, climb the ladder. I brought my computer home every day for 4 years as a DO and commander. I had tethered phone to my side, right? There's just sometimes you can't get away from that. But when you can, you can. When you go on leave, somebody else is in charge, right? When I went on leave, the DO or some other major was in charge of the squadron. And I didn't bring my computer. I'd bring my phone. I'd check it every now and then, but I knew I had people back at home that could handle it, whatever situation. Now if there's things, deaths in the squadron, things like that, right? That's when you need to get engaged. But just let those people that you've empowered to do what they do, so you can focus on your family. Yeah. No worries. All right. We got 1 minute. I can keep talking, or you can keep asking questions. I do have one thing I have to do before I leave here with y'all. So what do y'all want to do? Does anyone have class after this? Somebody's got to go to the gym. I know they do. You got to get your gains on. All right. Hey, let me leave you with this. Again, thanks for letting me spend some time with y'all this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me. Has anyone heard of the book Turn the Ship Around by David Marquette? Any of the cadets? Have you ever read that? I encourage you to read that. You probably never hear me say this again, right? I'm in school, right? Obviously, but I don't like to read a lot. I know. You should read, you're in school. But I read this book during my last assignment, right? And it's what I based my leadership philosophy and style on when I was in command. So, short version is David Marquette's in the Navy. He's retired. He gets tagged to go be the submarine commander. Everything on the ship is falling apart. Can't figure out what to do until he comes up with an idea, right? And it kind of ties into the Navy's concept of mission command. Have you all heard of mission command before? It's big in the Army. It's across all services, but it's empowerment, right? So David Marquette's like, hey, all of you, my department leads and everything like that, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You tell me what you're going to do. So what he gets at in the book is, his department heads come up to him. The expectation is the department head will say, I intend to submerge, whatever. I don't know how a submarine works, but I know it goes down. I intend to submerge the ship, right? He's like, okay, cool. And then he'll start asking them questions. You think about this, you think about that, just to make sure they're thinking all the right things, right? Because they don't want to put anybody's life in danger. And he surrounds it with some other concepts, and those other concepts are what I took and I morphed into, again, my leadership. So think of a triangle. Like I don't have a place to draw, but everyone can visualize a triangle, right? And three sides of that triangle, right? One side is illegal, one side is it's safe, one side is the right thing to do. And so my philosophy, going through is I would allow my airmen of all ranks to execute within that triangle. I tell them, hey, go take out the trash, right? And I'm not going to tell them how to take out the trash. I just want you to take out the trash. Right? You figure out how to take the trash. If you can figure out how to take out the trash while staying inside the confines of this triangle, you can take out the trash being safe. You can take out the trash while being legal. You can take out the trash because it's the right thing to do. To go take out the damn trash. Right? You figure it out. Right? I'm not going to tell you how to take out the trash. And that's kind of the concept of mission command. Is I tell you the what it is I need accomplished. Right? My intent. Hey, I need you to figure out how to convoy from Aviano Air Base to Poland, as an example. It's like a 3-day drive. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. That's the task at hand. The intent is we're going to convoy the squadron in 15 5-ton trucks and 150 people from Italy to Poland. Go figure it out, right? And then you talk to them, you ask them probing questions, think about this, think about that. Right? You want to make sure they're staying in that triangle. Stay in that triangle all day long, we're good. You can even get really, really close to one of those sides of the triangle, and we're still good. But it's when you cross the line of the triangle, that's when we start to have concerns. So the book does it more justice than I can, obviously, but I would encourage you that in your free time when you're not 25-cent pitchers, or I don't know if that's a thing. It was when I was in college. During your free time when you're not studying, and you're not learning how to be airmen, check out that book. It's a quick read, right? The other things I would encourage you to do, Spaz and I talked about this a lot because it's tied into my paper, is start learning about artificial intelligence. Start learning about cognitive warfare. Has anyone heard of cognitive warfare before? Yes? A little bit? Start learning about that, right? Start learning about machine learning, because that's where we're going. So I can tell you this, the Chinese are already doing it, and they're doing it well. Whether they're in front of us, lagging, equal, that's depending on what article you read, you get a different answer, but that's where the Air Force, that's where the service departments are going to in the future. Right, so start learning about that, start taking some time and pick up a book or two on that and see how that can impact you. No matter what AFSC you're going to be in, right? Everything from 17 deltas to pilots to developmental engineers, it's going to apply at some point across the board. So if you start getting ahead of it now, the better questions? Any questions, y'all? Yeah, as long as I'm home by 7 o'clock, but I mean, I'm good. AM. And tomorrow's Friday, it's my elected day.
If anybody has to leave for class or anything like that, you are dismissed from here. Do we want to stay afterwards?
Yeah, we can stick around for a little bit. Again, we will get home. We do have to get home tonight. But if you have to leave before you leave, I just want to take an opportunity. If Dan and Christian come on up. Here you go, over there. I mentioned it in the beginning, so I reached out to Colonel Havard and said, hey, I've got this mandatory, non-graded syllabus event I have to do for the Army War College, and I'd really like to come up and spend some time and talk to some Air Force folks, right, and share some experiences and answer some questions that you all might have for us. And so you guys got tapped to take point from it. It was awesome. It was like the last day of your winter break. We're all virtual. Like I'm sitting at home, I haven't shaved in like 3 weeks. I got my sweatshirt on, and we're just having a conversation, trying to figure things out to get this all set up. And awesome job from both of you again to allow me to come up here and just spend some time. I really want to see this red preacher guy.
We have 1635 class in here, so we can
Okay,
wrap it up.
awesome. Yep. So I just want to say thank you very much, and Army War College going for you.